Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael. We're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today's very, very special guest is Bill Allen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're super excited. And just to let our audience know, so Bill actually hosted a virtual event. It was the Veterans Real Estate Investor-ish conference. I don't know the exact verbiage, but I really liked it. But it was our first event that we ever went to for real estate. Like we had, oh gosh. It literally started everything. I know. So, I mean, it was super cool. We were super glad that we joined. We were super thankful that you hosted it because I know it was supposed to be in person and went to virtual. And it was just literally, we were at the right place at the right time when we went on that Facebook post that you know about with Dave Gray. Yeah. And you commented, and that's literally where it all started. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts because we learned so much. And that event actually, besides us thinking that we were going to start with BRRRRs, like Whitney Sewell, having that one-on-one, like made us literally go into multifamily so quickly. So again, very powerful event. Everyone should actually go because it's just a huge variety of content. So we're not just talking, about like single family or just about multifamily. Like you can learn about everything. And that's the greatest part because real estate is for everyone. It just has different flavors that people prefer. And so like great event to attend. But thank you, Bill, for everything.
Well, you're welcome. That event's been fun to put on. We do a lot of events, right? So having that background and that experience to be able to do that. I mean, we probably only had, what do we have? Like 100 people, maybe 150 people that first year. We were able to do some really cool stuff. We gave all the profits to charity. We were able to build a tiny house. We raised like $35,000 for charity there. And we did some really cool stuff. So I don't know what we're doing this year. We're actually in talks right now of can we do it? Because, we added a summer event to us, a multifamily event that we put on now in June. And so that event has been in May the past few years, and we want to do it in person again. So I actually have a call right after this to try to figure out how we can do that. So we've done it for 2 years in a row. And I'm glad that you guys did it too, because I've invested in one of your deals. So the more deals that people like you guys do or go find or raise money for, it helps me too, right? It goes full circle. So I'm glad to have you guys there. You were really engaged. I remember seeing you. You were attending all of it. And that's what it is. I can, we have these events, even especially the virtual events, and I can see 5 or 6, sometimes 10, 20, 30 people that are just like playing all out, fully engaged, taking notes, answering questions, like really doing it. And those are the people that are going to do it. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I just want to get started, like attend the events or do something and just go all in. And that's what you guys did. It's really cool to see. And that's the biggest piece of advice I can give people. Like I can tell through the engagement and activity who is going to be successful, because if they're taking that seriously, then they're going to take all the other stuff seriously, the action that's needed to take to become successful. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, would you mind sharing with our listeners, our Adventurous family, a little bit more about you, your background, and why you started investing in real estate?
Sure. So I've been in the Navy for a long time. I was an engineer in college, went into the Navy as an officer right after school. I did ROTC at Georgia Tech, and then became a pilot. I flew helicopters and airplanes for the Navy I was 15 years of active duty, and then I'm in my 19th year right now as a reservist. So I've done 4 years of reserve time, and hopefully if everything goes well next year, I'll be retiring.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I'm ready for that. So in all of that, I moved around a lot. I moved 16 times in 18 years or so. With all of that, real estate was a thing that I either had to rent a house or I had to buy a house. And I had a commanding officer in college who said he bought a house at every duty station and always made money. And I think that was right in like the late 90s when he told me that, but I got kind of crushed in 2006 and 7 with one of the houses that I bought. So I would buy a house, I would leave, I would fix it up while I was there, and I'd rent it out. And then that helped me kind of grow my net worth. I was tracking my net worth, was very involved in the stock market, investing in index funds for a really long time. I was always a saver. I was saving like 50 to 60% of my military salary every year. I wasn't married, didn't have kids, anything like that yet. So it was a lot easier to do. But real estate showed me, as I tracked my net worth every month at that time, I tracked it every single month. I saw it really start going up as I was changing the value of the house and the amount of money that I was making on some of these houses. So for me, that's kind of how I started. Then I got to the point where I started flipping. I flipped one house actually. It was supposed to be a rental, and I was fixing it up to rent it out. And my realtor said, you could sell this and make a lot of money. And I did. I made $43,000 in a couple months. It was like probably 6 months from purchase to closing and resale. That was like half of my salary for the year. So that got me excited. And then I wanted to do it again. It took me another 6 months to find another property, another 6 months to do it over again. So a year later, I did another one, made $45,000. So that was kind of exciting for me. And then I wanted to figure out how to go do that a lot more often. So I found a mentor, got a coach, hired somebody, and really just blew up a company to doing hundreds of deals a year, multiple $1 million a year in top line gross profit. And here I am. And it's about 800 or 900 deals later, something like that now, of single family deals. And I was talking to some new people just yesterday, and they just don't know how to get their first one. And it becomes easy. And that's the interesting thing, is over time, it becomes a little bit easier. So maybe we can dive into that or something, but that's my story in a nutshell, I guess, is real estate, because I wanted to be financially free. Like, I wanted to figure out how to not get deployed again, how to not have to have the military just thrash me around for $100,000 a year every year. And I just wanted to control my own future.
No, and thanks for getting into that. I have something specific that I want to ask, and it kind of goes into when you said we could dive into it further, but like after 800, I am 100% sure you are financially free. So like, what is the drive? Or I hope so, at least, right? What is the drive then to keep going? Because I know you said it keeps getting easier, but then where do you go from there? Like, at what point do you just become passive, if that's ever what you want to do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And I think it's what a lot of people are trying to figure out. And you think that like, my goal in the beginning was to get 10 rental houses that were making me $10,000 a year. And I was just going to retire from the military. And then I make, $120,000 a year from my rental houses, make $50,000, $60,000 from my retirement income. And that would be great, because I'd never made more than $100,000 or $120,000 a year. Right. Yeah. And so then I started making more money, and I thought, oh, this is it. Like, I can make $1 million a year, like truly net $1 million or more in a year. And that has happened. And that's enough, right? Like, it's enough. You're right. I can sit on the sidelines right now and buy a beach house and just go live in the beach house, raise my kids, and do all that stuff. I think there's two questions there. One, why don't you just stop? What's wrong with you? Or what are your goals? And then two, I know I'm putting words in your mouth, but a lot of people listening are probably saying that, right? Because I said that. Like, I would look at the people that I just wanted to be a millionaire one day when I was 40 or 50 or something like that. And then when you become a millionaire, or you make $1 million in a year, it's like, why would you even keep going? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? And then the other side is, like, you said it becomes easy. So what does that mean? So as far as the financial freedom goes, you have some purpose and some drive in life to do something. And in the beginning, it might be, hey, I want to make more money because I want to go do some things that I can't afford to do, or I don't think that I can afford to do right now, or I want to have some freedom or something in the future. And then when you go do those things and you make that amount of money, you realize it's not really about the money that you just made or the things that you can do or any of that stuff. You really are driven by something else. Like, there's something else in there that's causing you to keep going, or try to build a new company, or do something that's hard, right? And I think in all of that, you start finding your way to understand what it is that keeps you going or makes you tick. And for me, I think I'm not the guy who's just going to sit on the beach. I love the beach. I could go there for weeks in the summer. I absolutely love it, but I just couldn't do that every single day. I would get really bored. So, and then a lot of people come to our events and things. They say, like, this is all for my family. Like, I just want to spend more time with my family. But to be perfectly honest, like, I love my family. I have 3 boys, a 7, 5, and 3-year-old. I have an amazing wife, and I love spending time with them. However, I also just couldn't spend all my time with my kids and my family either. It's just not what would get me really excited to, like, change diapers and cart the kids around to school all the time, every day, to and from, and volunteer there. Like, I love doing what I do, coaching, being part of the Cub Scouts, being part of their lives, going camping, doing those things. But I also love to build things. and build companies and pour into other people and make a difference and an impact in other people's lives. So with all that being said, there's something that drives all of us. And for me, what I realize is I'm never going to stop like wanting to build companies, help other people, make an impact, be significant and contribute to other people's lives outside of just my family and me. Like I have enough money, I'm just going to sit here. I think that we can make a very big impact with our actions, our time, and our money all around the world with the things that we do. We can inspire people, we can donate, we can give back, we can give time, we can give money, we can give lots of things to other people. So all of that is pretty much why I think that most like entrepreneurs, driven people, the 1%ers, those kind of folks are just not really, it's not really about more money or things like that. Like freedom to me is really to decide what I get to do. Like I want to be able to decide when I go. So like if I could drop everything right now and go fly somewhere on vacation for a week. I just have to figure out exactly the pieces to put in place. And it's not, we can afford to do it. We can take the time off. I don't have to ask permission to go on vacation. I used to have to do that in the military. That was the one thing that I remember going, I never want to do this again. I don't have to ask permission to go on vacation. I don't have to ask my boss if I can go on vacation. I can just go, and I have to justify it to my staff and my team for sure. But I get to do it. Then the second piece of that, I think, and it's different for everybody, by the way, like success, freedom, all that stuff. It's a different dream for every single person. So there might be somebody listening who said, well, if I had $5 million, I would sit on the beach and do nothing. That's cool. I'm not judging you. I just can't do it. I'll do it for a week. I'll get bored. And I'll want more out of my life and where I'm going. And so growth for me, growth and contribution are the things that drive me right now. And if I didn't keep going, I wouldn't be growing. And so a lot of people say grow or die. It's a very popular saying. Tony Robbins says it all the time. And I think it's true for a lot of us. Like we constantly are striving for the next thing, and that's okay, as long as we can find fulfillment in that. So that's the key. And then the other piece you said is like, this stuff becomes easy. How do you find any enjoyment maybe? And I don't know if that's the exact question, but a lot of times as you keep going, what I noticed is I start seeing it through other people's eyes. And if I can see it through the new investor now, it becomes exciting for me again. So see them do that first $10,000 assignment, like $10,000 assignment to us is just like average or below average, what we're trying to do right now. But when I see that person get so pumped, it's their first deal, they got a contract, send us a message, post in our Facebook group, do those kind of things, like that is fun for me. We just went fishing down at Key West for 8 days. And I was really pushing my buddy, who's another avid fisherman. We've been fishing. We caught all the fish in Key West pretty much together and know what we're doing, to tie all the knots. We're out there just killing fish on a regular basis. It's awesome. I said, we need to bring people who've never caught big fish before. Because if we bring 2 other people, all 4 of us are avid anglers, we've been fishing down at Key West, there's nothing new, then it just won't be as exciting as it has for us in the past. So I brought my videographer, Andre, and we brought one of my business partners, Jeremiah Johnson, and they had never, it was like the trip of a lifetime for them. And being there and seeing it through their eyes just made it so much better. So I think when you get to a point of achievement and you've done a certain number of deals and you have, I don't know, you have $1 billion of assets under management for you guys one day, right? And then you're like, this 120 unit apartment building is not exciting me anymore. Well, you'll probably say, well, what if we brought somebody in that was brand new? Or what if we taught somebody how to do that? We partnered with them, and that can make it exciting again and really be able to see it from a totally different angle for most people that want to, give back and make an impact on other people's lives. So there's 2 answers, long-winded for you.
No, and I love them. And okay, so I'm going to hit on both. So like the first one, like statistically, a lot of men actually, and women, but it's more men that retire, like go into depression because they don't have anything after retirement, right? Because it's the same thing. It's like we get bored. So, well, when I say we, I mean like men and women. I'm not a man, but you get what I mean. So like people just get bored when they don't have a plan. And what I love about even just this entire journey is that when you start thinking about financial freedom or like, how do I want to impact people along the way, you bring that into everything into your life, right? So like at a traditional like W-2, and I don't mean this anyone against a W-2 or in their 9-to-5 job, because like some people can love them and that is totally okay. You can be the passive investor of a lifetime. But like in our jobs, they're not talking about like what we do next, like after this job, because nobody wants to think about what they're doing after their job. But like with entrepreneurship, you are constantly thinking about like, yes, we're very present, but at the same time, how can I move forward? Like what is next? And whether that is like, I want to build a course, I want to mentor people, like I want to host an entire conference where I can give all of the proceeds away. When you have that mindset, you almost never get bored because there's always something there. And you know that you're going to be surrounded by people who can help you get to that place as well, right? So like in your workplace, we're not always talking about that next thing. But the thing is that even if you don't ever want to be active and you do just want to be a passive investor, like even just being able to create that mindset though, where you can think outside of like your traditional 9 to 5 to think about like what's next is also huge for you in your life. Like you don't have to be active to be able to do this. Like you can be on both sides of the sphere. It's just actually thinking about it and like getting into the place where you like have the freedom and even just have the mental capacity to be able to do it, right? Because so many people just come home at the end of the day and they're tired. So they're not thinking beyond it. But like when you know that your job is not just a means like to an end, like a means to, oh, I need to hit this number and that's all that's important to me, you start thinking about so many more things. And that's like the beauty of it. And I love that part.
You said something in there when some of the problems with, and I'll say it, look, if you're in a W job or a 9 to 5, like Susie's very nice, but if you don't want to be there, figure out a way not to be there. So there's nothing wrong with it. If you love doing that and that's where you focus and you want to show up and you want to be a part of some like another organization and work for somebody else, there's entrepreneurs, there are like workers and all that stuff is fine. I have plenty of friends that they look at me and think I'm crazy. Like it's so risky to do what you do. And I mean, that's why it is truly like the 1%, like 99% of the world is just going to go work. And that's fine. They're comfortable doing that. But if you're sitting in the W2 9 to 5 and you're like, I hate it, this stinks, I want to be an entrepreneur, go do it. Okay. But there's a curse there, right? Because we can never there's a point of never being satisfied. So where you're talking about, it's like more and more and more, and I'm always looking at the next thing. So entrepreneurs, a lot of times I work with a lot of them, I'm one of them, and we get to the point where just like, I just can't feel satisfied at some point. You become numb to the deal that's $100,000, then $1 million, and you're just like, okay, what's next? And we never look in the rearview mirror. We don't figure out how to know how far we've come in even such a short period of time, and always looking for the next thing. So that's a big thing that I think we have to look at for us, to a point where you just have to figure out how to be able to look back from time to time, see how far you've come, and have a ton of gratitude for where you are and what you're able to do. It's really, really cool if you can shift some of the thinking that you have to try to figure out gratitude and satisfaction for you. And that's the struggle that I know a lot of our people in my community are going through right now, and that I've gone through in the past year or so, of just figuring out how to be comfortable with what we have and what we do. So that's a word of warning to a lot of people. As you get in the entrepreneur world, it can be go, and it can be really addictive too.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And like, as you're going through this process of entrepreneurship, for us, looking at small deals less than 100 units is like something we don't even think about anymore, right? Just because like we're not there anymore. And as you continue to grow, your mind grows more and more and more, and you're thinking bigger and bigger and bigger. I want to kind of touch back on what you kind of said, thinking about gratitude and looking in the rearview mirror and stuff like that. Like, at what point do you need to stop and realize that, hey, maybe I need to take a step back and look in the rearview mirror, look how far we've come. For example, like looking at our goals that we set on January 1st of this year and how far we've come in an entire year. Like, we're like, okay, wow, we were really thinking small then, but we have to look back at the process and like, wow, we did a lot. And we have to be very grateful of that whole process. I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, when do you look back, number one, and number two, like any tips or anything for people who are at that point where they're like thinking too big and maybe need to look back and think about what got them to that point?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with thinking big or thinking big.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're thinking like too big, I don't know that really exists for me. But so you said it, if you look back at your goals, first of all, the first step is, and you guys did it right, you wrote things down. Because, and I guarantee that I'll be speaking directly to you two and anybody else that's listening that's an entrepreneur, is like, we get to a point where this is our goal, this is our plan, right? And then we get there a little earlier than we thought, and we just move the goal line. Like we just move it. So we had a ton of goals this year, and one of them was to hit like a certain number of members in one of our groups. And we hit it like way early in the year. And then we just said, hey, let's double it, just double it, and we'll keep going. And then at the end of the year, if we're getting towards the end of the year now and we're not hitting that number, and we're going, oh, we didn't, we failed. We didn't hit the goal that we wanted to hit, but we doubled it and we're like 5 people off. So it's like, we didn't fail. We actually crushed our goal. We just changed everything about the business model, and we just moved the goal line halfway down the field and just made it a much bigger field that we were playing on. So we do that on a regular basis. And if you don't write it down, if you don't document that stuff, if you don't have it, then your mind will play tricks on you, right? You'll think that you're not enough. You'll think that you haven't hit the goals, the metrics, all those things, where really you're way ahead of where you thought you would be at a certain time. So I'd say at least annually, like you're talking about, write down your goals. Pretty much everybody just sits down on like January 1st and writes that stuff down. You should definitely have quarterly, and then also like quarterly plans and goals that get you towards those annual goals. So at least every quarter, what we do is we sit down and review as a company and a team where we are in the quarters. How did we do? What did we hit? What did we not hit? How are we doing? Tracking towards our annual metrics and targets and things like that. And then at the end of the year, I do a podcast every year myself of, let me look back and tell you how big of a failure I was on the goals that I didn't hit and where I am. And what it does is it helps me. I love the podcast or a blog or a journal, because then I can actually look back on something that's hard evidence. I don't like writing journals and stuff like that. So I record the podcast every year so that I can go back and listen. I just went back and listened to mine from 2021, the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021. And wow, like I'm a totally different person now than I was then. I could just hear it in my voice. We do events. So we record all of our events and we give away the recording. So when I go back to me on stage 5 years ago, it's laughable. It's compared to me on stage now. And then 5 years from now, I'll look back at this and go, what was that guy even talking about? Like, I'm way further along. So that's one thing, I think, writing things down and then actually looking at it. The other, what I would say is, if you're ever feeling down, anytime, like you're feeling like you're having a bad day, you're feeling down, you feel discouraged, you didn't get as far as you thought you were going to, then I would say that is the time where you're almost a little bit too late, but is sitting in that moment. Don't sit in that moment heavy and feeling bad. Look back and say, what was I doing 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago or even 2 weeks ago? Like, how much more do I know now? How much further along am I? Do I even recognize that person? Look back at some Facebook posts or some Instagram posts or podcasts that you did or whatever. Like lighten yourself up by looking back at that time. And we talked about gratitude. Like the best way is to just sit in how grateful you are for what you have. I was at an event recently, and there was a guy, a speaker there, who he had no legs and really like one arm, right? So what he talked about was, instead of saying like, I have to, say I get to. So like, I have to go to work, or I have to go to the gym today, or I have to go to the grocery store. Like if you just change that one word to, I get to go to the gym today, or I get to go to the grocery store because we live in a country that has such amazing produce and a place that I can go, and I have money to actually spend in the grocery store where tons of people don't. They don't have options in food and things like that. So if you just change the language and the way that you show up, you change your entire perspective on everything. So like when I think back now, there's times where I'm like, oh, like I have to pick my kids up from school today, or well, if I just change that to like, man, I get to pick my kids up from school today. This is amazing. Like I get to leave work early to go pick up my kids, instead of I have to leave work early today to pick up. Like, it's just the way that we say things and the mindset that we have is a total shift. So there's a couple things I would say. Number one, like write stuff down, document, and be intentional about looking back. And it's huge. It's really, really big and we don't do it. We just step on the gas harder and move the goal lines, and then say, well, we're still not good enough when we're like, we've 5x'd our goal in the beginning of the year and we're not happy with it. So, and you said it even in your question. You said like, we look back at how small we were thinking then. I bet if you interviewed yourself then, you would have been thinking that you're crazy and you were thinking really big.
Yeah.
You've succeeded very well. So now it's like, okay, well, what more can we do? You know? And I'll say this is a long game. It really is. Business is a long game. We try to do like way more in 6 months, 1 year, but like it's a long game. If you want to get in this, you're a professional. This is what you want to do. This is 10 years, 20 years. And a lot of us have only been in it for a couple of years. I mean, I've only been doing this for like 8 years and only really professionally for like 6, you know? So when you think about that, this is a very minute amount of time in my overall journey of life. So my biggest regret is like, I wish I figured this game out when I was in my 20s.
Right.
So
no, I totally get that. And that actually, like, a couple things hit on that, because it almost goes full circle, right? Like when you talk about mindset and the way that you talk to yourself, that even goes back to everybody's journey at the very beginning. You know, like even when I said that just going to your event and having the mindset that we could do multifamily, like that was huge, right? That's a huge shift. But even when you talk about like looking at yourself from the beginning, and then when you started, like I remember when I first did one of your like 30-day Facebook Live challenges, like when they came up on my memories this year, I was like, what? Who is that? And why did she do that? You know, like it was pretty funny. Now I can do Facebook Lives and it's fine, only because practice makes it easier. But it's also cool to have seen me like that, because I was nervous and I did say like a lot, and listening to myself over and over and over, it makes you work on yourself. And that's one of the hardest things really to do, is to reflect and do those little cringes and say to yourself, okay, how can I get better? Whether that is speaking out loud or writing or doing whatever. Because if you like somewhere in your life, you have to do something that's uncomfortable, but doing it and then actually like taking a step back to reflect on it, that's also big. But you also have to do that like in business, in your job, I mean, in your marriage, with your friends, with your children. That's just everywhere. But that's also really, really hard step. I don't know how I got to this, but it made me think about it when you had talked about just even like reflecting back to the first person that you ever were when you decided that this is where you wanted to start.
Well, I did my first Facebook Live on February 1st or 2nd, 2020, ever. And so when I hear you say that, I created that challenge in June of 2020 because of how much it helped me. Like I went live for 30 days and then I did it again for another 30 days because I was like embarrassingly, I didn't even know where to hit the button on the camera in the app to even start it. But somebody pushed me. One of my mentors, Russell, he pushed me to go do that. And I said, all right, I'll do it. And it made me a better podcaster. It made me a better speaker. It made me better at a lot of things. But I would go back to those. Facebook's really good at that, aren't they? They're like, this happened 2 years ago. You watch it and you're like, oh, so that's a great way to do it. That's one of the reasons why I structured that challenge the way that I did, because I see people after 15 days or 20 days or 30 days become way better than they were on day one, right? Once you get out of the comfort zone, you get a little bit uncomfortable, you push through that. And then, man, the growth is like exponential after that. In everything that we do, I see people in single family and multifamily to do their first deal. Like the difference between somebody who's never done a deal and somebody who's done one is astronomically different. And then somebody who's done one and somebody's do 100, that's not a big difference. You know, you go from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, and like I said, it becomes easy. But that 0 to 1 game, that's where the hard stuff happens. That first deal, that is the transformation of a lifetime, regardless if it's single family, multifamily, if it's a note, whatever it is. And including going to a whole nother world, another industry, or another part of the industry. So I see single family investors done 500 deals. They go to multifamily and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is way different than I thought. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, but they do that first one, it's game over. Mm-hmm. So.
No, 100%. And I really like that you even said it like that, because it is that initial jump is where like all the fear lies. But then once you do that jump, the next jump is so much easier. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yep. But there's always fear. There's fear in all of it.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, people who are ultra mega successful, they're afraid. Everybody's afraid. And it's usually just the afraid of not being enough or not being loved. Those are the two things I think that it always usually comes back to. And you can say anything that you want, but any fear, failure, all the stuff, it's just those two things. So, and usually for us, it's not being enough, you know? And so if we can just get over that, like we know that we're enough. Like, I don't know how you guys talk on here, but God made us in a very specific way to be a very specific purpose to carry out something. And we are enough regardless of how successful we think we are. So if we can get over that, game over, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, even Michael and I, right? Like, we tell everyone, like, you were born to make an impact. Like, and we want people to understand that, because I mean, it goes along exactly what you're saying, because it doesn't matter what the verbiage is. It's just how it sticks. So like, if we have to change the words a little bit, then that's fine. And ours is just, you're born to make an impact, because we truly believe that. And I think once other people, everyone, actually not other people, just everyone, like, starts to believe that, like, that little fire will light up.
Yep. Yep. I love it.
Well, Bill, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I love to chat with you more, because every time it's always this wealth of knowledge. I know we touched on mindset in this show. We have to have you back on, because I really want to chat with you more about like the impact, building tiny homes and giving away homes to homeless people and veterans and things like that is amazing too, that you're doing as well. So we have to have you back on to chat about that. But before we end this show, we have 4 exploratory questions we ask all of our guests. And the first question we have for you, Bill, is where is one place you wish to travel to, and why?
One place I want to travel to that I haven't ever been before?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You could have been there before, but somewhere.
Okay, good. So we went to South Africa like 4 years ago and went on safari. And we were trying to go back towards the end of this year, like right around this time, but we just couldn't work it out this year. So much travel and so many things that we were doing. So I want to go back there. Like, it was one of the most impactful times of my life, a week on safari, and it was amazing. Like, I can't even believe they let you get so close to the animals. So I thought I'd be like sitting on a cliff looking down on like a Sahara, and they're just running around down there. I was like, there was a lion eating a warthog like 4 feet from the truck that I was in that had no protection. It was crazy. So I want to go back there really, really bad. And if anybody, I remember as a little kid, my mom's like best friend they'd go on these crazy vacations every year. And she came back from safari, showed me all these pictures. I was like, I got to go one day. So that going back there is going to be huge. I want to try to do that in the next year or 2.
No, that's awesome. That is. So the second question is, what is the number one thing on your bucket list, and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Oh man, I've wanted to own a jet, like a private jet for a while. I have a little family airplane, and I just wanted to figure out how to get to that point. That's like where we can just fly anywhere. I can go to California if I want. I don't have to sit on the Southwest cattle herder and stuff like that. So, so that's something that I've always wanted to do, but I was like, there's no possible way. It doesn't make sense. Like, and then I was talking to a guy at a mastermind meeting that I was at a couple, like 2 months ago. And he's like, oh yeah, we just bought this. And he like showed me, I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, we just charter it out most of the time and we use it some of the time. And I was like, why didn't I think about chartering a jet? So I'm using real estate investing to create enough capital, enough net worth, all that stuff, cash flow, so that I can buy something like that for me. And I love to fly. That's why, because I'll fly it. I'm not going to sit in the back and drink champagne. I am going to be flying it, and it's going to be awesome. So that's, I don't know, maybe I can already see it. I think it'll be February, March of next year when
I've seen posts on Facebook about it. So
yeah, I'm looking at a little family jet right now. I think we'll probably start with that. I'm going to go test fly it here in like 3 weeks. And so I think we'll start there. And then I don't know, who knows what happens 2 or 3 years after that. Maybe move up to a mid-size or something.
The back, Susie,
what's that?
If you need any passengers, just sip champagne. Susie and I are here.
Sounds good. If you ever make it back to the U.S. over by the Nashville area, I'll take you flying for sure.
Perfect. So, Bill, the third question we have for you is, what is one piece of advice you have for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
If it's passive, I'd say just do it. Like a lot of times it's, I don't have enough. Like if it's your emergency fund or your rainy day fund, and if you might need it in 6 months, that's a different story. But a lot of times man, I had all my money in the stock market for so long, and I'm diversified now differently inside of real estate. And that's pretty much where my capital is. Almost all of it, frankly, to be perfectly open. And I invest passively with lots of other syndicators. So I would say, look at the returns, look at the people, try to figure out who you want to be involved with, who you know, like, and trust, values and characteristics match up, and then just jump. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to really give you advice other than just go. The cool thing is, you don't have to like put $500,000 in, like just put some money in, see how they do, check the returns, and then do more if you want. So take a step. You don't have to jump in the deep end with, $250,000 right away. Drop 50 grand into a property and invest passively with some of these folks and see how it goes.
That's great advice. Thank you. Then the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
I feel like I do have unlimited resources available. We all do, right? We're not like, resources are not the problem, right? We're not resourceful enough a lot of times. So I think we all have the resources that we need. And I think to make more of an impact, we constantly have to challenge ourselves to what Michael said before. Are we doing enough? And it's not, are we doing enough for ourselves and our family and the people around us? Like, are we really doing enough? I was sitting in church the other day and man, I just had this like feeling like I am not doing enough to give back. I am not doing enough to further this kingdom. I'm not doing enough for lots of things. And I just felt like there was so much more that I could do. Like the potential was just not even being tapped. So I would say just like follow your calling. Like if you feel like you're called to do more, then just lean into it. Don't lean out of it. Don't say, I can't, I don't have the resource. I'm not, whatever. Just say like, how can I do this? And then it will come to you. You will figure it out. You'll make the connections. If you're moving in that direction, the path will be provided for you. You'll see it and the opportunities will come, but you have to put yourself out there and tell somebody and talk about it and say what you want to do. Like I want to give $1 million away to charity a year. I want to figure out how to do that. We're at like, we're somewhere in the $250,000 range this year so far in the past like 3 months. So like, I just now need to figure out, I wanted to do it like 3 years from now. Now I'm like, we could do it this year. So how do we do it? So I think just lean into that. Like resources are not the problem. They're never the problem. You have them.
No, I really like that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because that runs so much deeper. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. And before we end the show, Bill, would you mind sharing with our Adventurous family, how our listeners can reach out to you and find out more about you? So Bill puts on, for everybody's out there listening, Bill puts on the best real estate investing, I don't know what to call them, like conferences, both virtual and in person. They're just amazing to go to and amazing to attend, packed full of a lot of knowledge and information. So Bill, would you mind sharing with our listeners how they can find out more about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We have probably the best place is I have a podcast called 7-Figure Flipping. I talk about all the stuff that we're doing. And then our website, 7figureflipping.com. We have a single family event called Flip Packing Live, multifamily event called Multifamily Live. And then I hope we have an event called Veterans Live, Veterans REI Live. I hope we are able to put it on this year. We're going to try to figure that out. We're going to work through it in 6 minutes to try to figure out how to do it. And if you go to 7ffbook.com, it took 2 years of my life, wrote a book, pretty much everything in the single family world, marketing, a lot of mindset stuff in there, sales, negotiation, those kind of things are in there. It's free. If you go to Amazon, I think it's like costs like 20 or 25 bucks, but it's free. You do have to pay like $8 for shipping, but we'll ship it out to you and they're available right now. And we also have like, I don't know, we're doing this like 12 days of Christmas right now. So I have no idea when it's going to come out, but we are giving away like so many extra bonuses right now for the actual launch because it just became available. So that's probably like the best way. Like the podcast is free. A lot of stuff we do on YouTube is free. We do free virtual conferences and stuff like that. And that's like the best way. And then the book is like next to free. I think it's like $7 or $8 to get it shipped to your house. So, and I think it's even $7 to ship it to the UK. It costs, I don't know how much they charge us for that, but we got to figure out international shipping because the Canadians and the Europeans are crushing us, I think, on shipping costs probably. So, but that's where I recommend everybody start. Like just check us out. If it makes sense for you to come to an event, great. If all the free stuff is what you need, great.
No, cool. And thank you so much for sharing all of that. Like all of that will be in the show notes so everyone can find it. Yeah. So thanks again, Bill, for joining us. It was truly, truly a pleasure. And I cannot wait to see you in January.
I know it's going to be great. We haven't seen it. Have we seen each other in person?
No,
we haven't. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've known you guys for years and it's all via Zoom. Isn't it crazy? We're so connected right now. So it's really awesome. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Bill. I really appreciate it. Until next time, explore more. Adventure awaits.
Woo!